Ladies and people who don't plug their microphones in correctly when they're sitting down to do a podcast with their boyfriend Andy.
I'm sorry.
Andy here, day 240 of the Inner Winner Show. I'm joined by the very spiteful,
Not spiteful.
sabotaging
No.
thing that I call a girlfriend.
Hey.
So we are going to talk.
It's unintentional. We already recorded this intro.
Nobody cares, bro. Everybody's hurt, and on my side, you have crushed my hopes and dreams. We're going to talk today about a bunch of stuff that we have to offer. The point of this concept is to get you guys thinking, what do you guys have to offer? Because a lot of the time, we kind of think about what we want from the other gender.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys do it, girls do it as well. And we don't tend to think like, wait, what am I bringing to the table? So this is kind of like, don't take this too seriously. We don't want you guys to get neurotic or anything, but it's just like a thought exercise. And if you go through all this, you go through this exercise yourselves and you go, shit, I don't actually have much to offer. Don't stress. Like, as long as you're working on it, you know, you're working through your self-improvement, you're going to the gym, you're working on your personality, you're making friends, like all that kind of shit. Like, don't stress. This stuff will, generally speaking, get better as you work on your self-improvement. It's like a fun exercise
Of course.
to get you out of your own head a little bit and get you to stop thinking about, like, what is she bringing to the table, and start thinking, like, am I bringing something to the table? Because the more you offer, the easier it is to get laid or get a girlfriend. That shit gets way easier as you become a more well-rounded person, of course.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, it can work the other way as well. Is if you are feeling maybe a little bit inadequate in a relationship, or you feel like you're taking a lot from your partner, it might be worthwhile for you to be like, no, actually, I am like bringing something. Like, I am still giving my partner something.
Yeah, for sure. This can work in your favor. This exercise can work in your favor, yeah. Because you might do this exercise and go like, wait, I actually am bringing a lot to the table. Like, especially if you're someone who has low self-esteem, or your self-esteem hasn't caught up yet to your self-improvement effort. Sometimes you improve yourself a lot, you make a bunch of changes, and your self-esteem is still down here. And so if you do this exercise, you might be able to bring it up a little bit and go like, no, I've made some changes. I am worth something, you know what? Like, I've done a decent job. So what we're going to talk about here today is going to go beyond the most important things, which are looking good and always be working on your self-improvement. Those two things are kind of mandatory, right? Like, you want to look decent,
Yep.
and you want to be working on your self-improvement every single day. So we're going to ignore those. And I guess I'll also say this applies to female listeners as well, like everything we're going to talk about. A lot of this also applies to casual sex, but is even more important when we're talking about actual dating. So you can go onto my website and read the retention guide, which is the last part of the Tinder guide. I can't link to it on YouTube because it's got nudie pictures, and YouTube gets very sensitive about that. But you can go onto my website, you guys know my website, and search on there for just search for the word retention. Read the retention guide. I cover a lot of stuff in there about like what you can offer, you know, how to get yourself to be a well-rounded person. You can even ask girls, like ask a few girls, that, especially if you've seen them multiple times, so you kind of trust their opinion. You can say like, what do you like about me? Or like, would you say I have to offer girls? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, and like you said, it can be like a fun complementary exercise where you make like both parties just feel nice about
Yeah,
themselves.
for sure. We did that on a podcast recently, the one we did with, you know, with the threesome one we did, where we interviewed one of the girls that we're sleeping with. And we asked her, like, you know, we gave a couple of compliments at the end. So similar exercise to that. So we are going to bounce through. This is kind of just going to be a fun one, right?
Yeah.
I guess you guys can pause the podcast now, or maybe when you finish the podcast, you can run through this exercise yourself. But you and I did this with each other. And I said, like, all right, you come up with a bunch that you have to offer. I'll come up with a bunch I have to offer.
Did we write these down?
Yeah, I wrote them all down. I got them all here, so I'll read them off. And again, the point of this is to just get you guys thinking. Like, this isn't necessarily... it may come across as bragging a little bit, because we are literally sitting here saying, like, here's what I have to offer. But again, like, if you do this exercise yourself, like, that's kind of the point. You kind of want to brag so that you can raise your self-esteem and realize that you do have stuff that you're offering right now. I've gotten a few of my coaching clients to do this as well. One in particular that I can think of, I made him go away and write 20 things that he has to offer women. And he came back and we read through them all. And I was like, these are fucking awesome, man. Because before that, he's like, I don't know why girls would sleep with me. And I was like, he needed to do this exercise. So for a lot of you, you will as well. You'll need to go through and think about all the stuff that you have to offer, whether that's like you're a cool person, you're a nice dude, like you're empathetic, you have a big dick, like you're good in the bed, like whatever it is, just
Yeah.
go through everything. So we'll start with one of yours, which is, and again, the point of this was you came up with your own, and I came up with my own, and then we were able to like add in a few extra
bits and
ones that
pieces.
the person didn't think of. Yeah, for sure. But your first one that you came up with, I said, what do you have to offer me, or what do you have to offer men? And you said, I'm very affectionate and loving. And honestly, for a lot of dudes, I think that's something more that women would say, like this one. But there will be a lot of dudes that, like, you do this exercise and you say, like, do you know what? I'm pretty fucking affectionate. Yeah, I'm a pretty loving dude. Yeah, I got a big heart. Yeah. Like, that's worth fucking saying. That's a good thing to offer people. Of course.
Yeah, of course. It feels nice when you're the one that's like someone's actively like trying to, give you hugs and just like
Everyone loves affection for sure.
of course.
So my first one was I'm very stoic and emotionally stable and reliable. As in, I'm almost never in a really bad mood. I'm super patient. I don't get rocked easily. So that is one that a lot of guys will be able to say. Like, maybe you're not perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, but just a big part of masculinity is feeling a little more stable than perhaps a woman would. And that's something that a lot of you guys listening will have to offer women. Like, I'm usually a bit more stable than most women that I've been with.
Yeah, and I think me being somebody that's a bit more emotional,
Yeah.
that makes a big difference.
And I'd say most women are going to be more emotional than most men. So this is something that a lot of guys wouldn't think of as they're doing this exercise. They'll be like, well, shit, I don't know what I have to offer. It's like, this is probably a big one. Honestly, most guys probably get this by default. I'm more stable than most women. Cool. Most women will like that about you. Because again, the point of this exercise is to get you guys thinking a little more kindly about yourself, to raise your self-esteem a little bit, to realize that you probably have a lot more to offer women than you're giving yourself credit for. And again, if you don't, then just keep working on your self-improvement.
Yeah, and I would say be generous with this because I know, particularly like you said, if anybody listening is somebody with low self-esteem, I know my reaction is to say like, oh, that one doesn't count, like, oh, not really. Be generous.
A lot of guys do that too.
Write it down.
Yeah, a lot of guys do that too. They're like,
Because
that doesn't count. And it's like, yes, it does.
that's the point of the exercise. It's to feel good, not worse about yourself.
Yeah, good point. Yes. Yes, please don't use this as an exercise to beat yourself up. The whole reason we're saying to do this is so that you feel better, so that you give yourself some credit. So you say, okay, who I am right now is decent. I'll keep working on myself, but I'm like decent as I am now. This is okay. I got a little bit to offer. Cool. So your next one was you're supportive and encouraging, and you push me, as in you push Andy to be better. You give me a reassuring pep talk if I fail at something. You motivate me to fucking crush it. You didn't say the words fucking crush it, but I wrote that down. You don't talk like that. A lot of guys, a lot of girls listening will obviously relate to that one, being supportive and encouraging. A lot of guys too. A lot of guys are like the absolute best cheerleaders that you could ever hope for. Like they're the best dudes to have in your corner. Like they will absolutely push you and say like, come on, man, you got this. Like, I guess he wouldn't mind me shouting him out. No, maybe I won't. There's one guy in the winners club. I don't know if he's comfortable with me saying his name. He uses his real name in the group, whatever. Like, he probably knows who he is. His name starts with G. He's probably, like, the best, most, like, encouraging guy in the group in terms of just, like, that energy of, like, you got this, man. Like, come on. And there are a lot of guys that have that energy, that really give good, like, pep talks and, like, just that little push. And so that, again, is something that you have to offer. Mm-hmm. So my next one is I give advice and I mentor. I think this is a big one. And I think a lot of guys do this as well. I think a lot of guys have this one as well. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and give like a 15-minute pep talk or something or a half-hour like, counseling session. But just like giving girls that little bits of advice here and there if they ask for it. Maybe you see that they're struggling with something, so you just give them a little bit of advice. Like tiny little bit, even just encouragement. If you don't have advice, just encouragement. Like we said before, like, come on, you got this, you can do this, like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have a lot.
You looked like you were going to say something. I got excited there.
Sorry.
Your next one is intelligence and open-mindedness. As in you, Imogen, you said intelligence and open-mindedness. And you're pretty much willing to, or you're open enough to follow any conversation about any topic and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think for us this goes both ways, where we both like talking about ideas and
philosophy and
Yeah, we just like chatting about things a lot. So.
And a ton of guys have this, and again, don't give themselves credit for it.
Yeah.
Like this is a big thing to give yourself credit for. Being good at like having an open mind and talking about any topic. and being open and willing to talk about any topic, which a lot of guys have that. It's like, that's very appealing to a lot of women, like that you can just talk about anything.
Like that intelligence, like being able to have a good conversation that's really engaging. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Goes a bit deeper.
And if you're not ultra intelligent, fine. Like, intelligence is something you can work on. There's this weird notion that your intelligence is fixed and that you can't improve it. It's like, you can improve literally everything. If you want to be more intelligent, go read more books, go have more philosophical debates, start researching a bunch of this stuff. Yeah. Like, go to meetup.com and just go to philosophy groups and literally go and like expand your mind, expand your intelligence. Take fucking... I wouldn't encourage that. But yeah. My next one is that I'm interesting. I have lots of different interests and hobbies, and I'm willing to have deep, meaningful conversations about it. So yeah, a lot of guys like that. You'd be surprised how many guys say, like, I don't have much to offer. You know, I'm not that interesting. And then it's like, in my spare time, I do like snowboarding, and I also like, you know, I taught myself to hunt, and like I can also fire a bow, and like, you know, I can fix my own car. I know how to do that, and I know this, and I know that. And then they're just like, I'm so boring. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? That's like 15 different hobbies. Like, what are you fucking talking about?
I think because you're the one living your life all the time, it seems normal.
Yeah.
And then it takes somebody else to kind of say, like, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And you're like, oh, I guess so. Like, I guess most people don't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I used to get that a lot because I like having a lot of hobbies.
You have a lot of hobbies. You're someone that's very interesting, yeah.
And doing different things. But that seems normal. And I think I grew up in an environment where everyone did that and I was surrounded by overachievers. Yep. And so it seemed very normal and I felt very inadequate. And then you start talking to like a more diverse range of people. And people are like, wow, you're doing a lot. And you're like, I guess I might be. Like, once people start actually telling you that.
And pretty much everyone has interesting hobbies. Like, I can name some of the hobbies. I can name hobbies that people have told me are not interesting. Like, guys that have hit me up for coaching. Playing guitar is the first one that comes to mind. I have several clients that play guitar, and they'll say to me, like, I don't really have any hobbies. And then, because it comes up when I say, like, yo, go take some Tinder photos. What hobbies do you have that we can take as photos? And they'll say, not really any. And I have to keep digging, and I'll say, like, well, do you play any instruments? And they're like, oh yeah, I play the guitar. And I'm like, that fucking counts, dipshit. That's like incredibly interesting to most women. Like, you play the guitar. That's incredibly sexy. Like, that's a very fucking appeal. Yes, for sure. Or I paint. And you're like, are you fucking serious? I did that podcast with that guy who does like sketches and shit like that and drawings. You know who? I don't know if you remember. It was one of the early podcasts.
I don't remember. Sorry.
And that's like, he kind of downplayed that. And like, I had to kind of talk him up a little bit. So you said that one as well for you. You said, I'm also interested in interesting hobbies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most guys have interesting hobbies and...
That, and I think that when you have an interest, you get quite passionate and like... explore the ideas behind that hobby or like all of the nuances behind it a lot. I think that's what makes it interesting. I think that you can make almost any... I'm going to say any hobby interesting if you're passionate and enthusiastic about it.
Most of you are passionate about it. You just haven't given yourself permission to express that.
Yeah.
You're saying like, this is my hobby. I don't know. It's just my weird little hobby. And it's like, no, you're passionate about it. That's why you do it as a hobby. Give yourself permission to like, be happy about it. Brag about it a little. Say, I'm decent at this. Like, this is interesting to me. And most girls will be like, oh shit, I want to hear what you're interested in. My next one is that I'm great at sex, and that's mostly because I'm willing to try new things. That's probably 99.999. That's 100% of the reason why I'm good at sex. There was a time when I was terrible at sex, of course, but I was very willing to try different things. So if you're not good at sex, completely fine. I sucked at the start. Just try a bunch of shit. Just give yourself permission to be awful at it. You will, of course. You'll improve over time. You can be better than 99.9% of guys if you're just willing to try some things in the bedroom, because most guys aren't. They won't even try shit. They don't even think like, I could try some shit.
We also talked about this with the girl that we're seeing who we did a podcast with, how she had the reason that she was attracted to us was because we were like advertising that we're willing to try more kinky things, where she has had experiences where she would say something and then the guy would just be like, oh, I'm not really into that, like I don't want to try that.
Most of you guys, like, just even listening to this podcast or just being on my forums, like, you're already more open-minded than the average person. You already have that in your favor.
Yeah.
You are an open-minded person if you're listening to this podcast.
there's only so many times you can just have vanilla sex.
Yeah. Oh, it's great sometimes, but like you do want to be a bit more open-minded. That's incredibly appealing to women. And again, you don't have to be great at that kind of sex. You don't have to be great at using toys or different types of sex, or you just have to be willing to try different stuff. You don't even have to know everything there is. Just do some research. I've written multiple articles on how to explore your sexual bucket list.
And I think the fact that it's like novel and new, like that's what makes it exciting, is that you haven't tried it before, so you don't have to be great, because
Yeah, for sure.
the fact that it is novel, like it's half of the enjoyment that comes out of it.
Yeah. And so your next one was exactly the same, pretty much. Like you're sexually open, you're willing to try new things. So yeah, again, guys, if you're just willing to try things, that's it. Your one after that, we did a couple in a row for you and then a couple in a row for me. So your next one is that you have a very strong feminine energy. You're very sweet and pleasant. Most guys probably aren't going to say that. Most women listening, you'll have that by default for sure. And most guys listening, you can just flip it. You probably have a masculine energy, even if you don't think you do. Even if you think you're not as manly as you'd like to be, go listen to the previous episode 239. We talked about how to be masculine and shit like that. You have more masculine energy than every woman, or most women. So you do have that going for you to some extent.
Yeah.
The last one you wrote for you is doting on your man, as in you make me dinner, you make me a drink, you give me a back rub. These things don't have to be like chores like that, but it's more like you want to do nice stuff for me, and then in return I do nice stuff for you.
Yeah, I don't like the word, but it's like almost like a pleasure from being subservient. I really don't like that word, but
Doting is probably the good word. Like looking after. And so guys, like that's how we'll apply it to you. Any guys listening, looking after your women. That doesn't mean you have to like buy her a drink or do stuff for her. Like these are just, these are just some examples. But just basically giving a shit. Like that's how you should phrase it. Give a shit. Give her a bit of pleasure in the bedroom. Care if she orgasms. You don't have to make her orgasm every single time, but like put a bit of effort in. Go down on her a little bit.
Yeah.
Play with some toys. Make sure she's having fun.
Yeah, it's basically just wanting to make your partner feel good.
Yeah, giving her a cuddle after sex. Like, know what I mean? Walking her to the train station. You said to me, we told this story a million times, one of the main reasons that you were so keen to see me after the first time we had sex, because it was just really casual sex, we met on Tinder. One of the reasons you were so keen to keep seeing me was because I walked you back to the train station. And you said, like, a lot of guys don't do that. They're just like, bye, see ya. They walk you maybe to the front door and then say goodbye. And so, like, these little tiny things, like, just little things where you're just showing that you give a shit. You don't have to give the world's biggest shit. I'm not telling you to be, like, some subservient, nice guy who's, like, a doormat. I'm not saying that, but just, like, little behaviors. For a woman, it's, like, being feminine and sweet. Women know how to do this shit by default pretty well. Men, you kind of do, too. It's, like, that protective instinct. Like, I'm going to look after her, make sure she's cool. If she looks sad or something, I'll have a bit of a chat to her. I'll say, hey, what's up? Like, do you need some advice? I'll give her a cuddle after sex, make sure she's having fun. During sex, I'll say, like, you having fun? Like, how's that feel? Like, little bits like that. So just, like, giving a shit about the other person. For me, one of the final ones I said is being supportive and patient when you're going through some emotional shit. Very similar to, like, the idea of being the rock. Even just things like I tell you everything will be okay. Guys, that's your cheat code. If a girl is ever like feeling emotional, feeling down, feeling, hysterical sometimes, like whatever it is, like she's just having a shit day, just tell her everything will be okay. That fixes like everything. Give her a cuddle and just say everything will be okay. That fucking fixes everything. It doesn't even matter if it will be okay. Just say that and it will. To be fair, like everything does always work out fine. So it's like, it's true. Everything will always be okay. So that's your secret. 99% of the time, that's all a woman wants to hear as well. And I'm sure you can vouch for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just...
When you're sad, you just want to know that like these feelings will pass. Everything will be okay eventually.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from a masculine energy. Almost like a paternal... It doesn't have to be, but at least in our situation, like that paternal kind of vibe where it's like, I'll look after you and make sure like...
And guys, most guys want to do that. Most guys have like that white knight instinct. And I know white knight is used as a bad word. I use it as a bad word too. Protective. That's a better way of phrasing it. You want to look after women because they're cute and adorable, right? Just like women want to look after kids and men want to look after kids too. But women really want to look after kids and puppies and kittens. And men, yeah, of course you do. And then men feel those feelings towards women. Men want to like look after bitches. You know what I mean? And then my final one is that I'm self-assured, as in I know when I have a plan, it will happen. I know I'll always be okay no matter what life throws at me. I'll roll with the punches. So with this one, if you guys aren't there yet, which is fine, remember that I wasn't there for a lot of years. Like this is something that I've only started feeling over the last like maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years. Just keep working on your goals, keep achieving things. Over time, you'll start to feel like, okay, I can do this. And then eventually, the more goals you achieve, the more you can kind of trust yourself, trust your own judgment, trust your ability to get shit done, trust your ability to have a plan and then stick to it, like execute it. Trust your ability to reach a deadline on time. That's when you start feeling self-assured and confident. You can't really fake that. It just comes with achieving goals. So the answer here for this one, if you don't have that right now, if you're not self-assured, keep working on what you're working on. Keep achieving goals.
Yeah.
So again, that's like pretty much the list. Again, self-improvement and looking as good as you can. Those are mandatory. Like you have to have those to offer. I'd say for women too.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like if you got a woman, I know self-improvement is not a term that women use as much, but if you're a woman who's like, it's clear that in 5 years you're going to be worse than you are right now, that's a bad investment. And I think this will like click with a lot of guys. Guys like to think of things as like assets and investments. We're very like, pragmatic in that way. Why would you like, if you have a choice, you're going to buy a house that's going to appreciate in value, not depreciate. Same with a car. You know what I mean? Same with anything. Now, some investments, sure, they go down over time. Like generally speaking, this laptop that I'm doing this on is going to depreciate in value, of course.
Sure.
Like computer parts generally. But most guys are on board with the concepts of like having an asset that improves over time. That's a fucking win. Why would you not do that? You yourself, you want to be an asset that you're going to improve over time. And the women that you spend your time with, fucking hell, like you want them to be an asset for sure.
Particularly for relationships, because
Yes.
eventually there is a lot of investment that goes into that.
Yes. Why would you invest in someone who's going downhill and in 5 years she's going to be fat and obese and miserable? And like, why the fuck would you stick your dick in that? That's awful. Like, why would you commit to that? Stick your dick in it, sure. I'm saying it, like it's not a person. Like,
well, I mean, similarly, like it goes both ways.
yeah, for sure. Women should not be with, Jesus Christ, the biggest mistake you could make as a woman is being with a guy who's not into self-improvement. Especially as a woman, because you tie yourself really firmly to your man. Bigger than, like, women tend to tie themselves or tether themselves to the man more than vice versa. I know that, you guys know what I mean when I say that. You invest more. And you're more fucked if you're more fucked if he turns out to just be dog shit. And so, yeah, like both genders, absolutely the person that you're committing to or that you're spending time with. It doesn't so much apply with like casual sex, although, once you get to the stage where you've seen each other like 5 to 10 times, yeah, you don't really want to be with like a loser, so to speak, or someone who's going backwards, or someone who has no concept of like goals or improving themselves or being a better person or working on their flaws.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'd imagine happens. Like, when you get bored of someone, it's that like, it's because they're not, like, they're this static person that's, if anything, like, becoming a worse person in whatever
for sure.
regard.
You and I have had that conversation a million times, like, before we decided to, go serious with being boyfriend, girlfriend. I said to you, and you said to me a million times, do you think you'll ever get bored of me? Try and project in the future, not an immediate answer. Go away and think about it for a couple of weeks. Do you think you'll get bored of me in the future? And you said without, like, any hesitation, you still went away and thought about it, but you're like, no, why would I get bored of you? You're always like changing and growing. And I said the same thing. I'm like, why would I get bored of you? You're always working on shit. I'll respect you more over time because you've achieved more and more goals. I've seen you overcome more struggles. I will love you more in 10 years. Even though you'll be older, fine, but I will love you like 50 times more than now. For sure. Yeah. So we'll also say there's plenty of other things that we could have added to this list or that you guys could have on your list. You'll have a bunch of shit that's not on our list for sure. Start thinking of like what you have to offer people, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't really matter. And the point of the episode is to get you kind of thinking about what you have to offer. And if you say something and it's like kind of a half answer, or like you have a point but it's not super strong, you can develop that even further. You can make that your strength. Or if you don't have a lot to offer, you can like develop some strengths and figure out some things to offer. Again, go onto my website. read through the retention guide, search for retention guide. I've got a list of like 50 things on there. And the final thing I'll say is life is a constant process of upgrading and improving yourself. You'll never be a finished product. Yeah. You're not a finished product.
No.
This list wasn't to say like, look at us, we have a lot to offer. It's like, there's not a lot of shit on here, but there's like more than enough on here that keeps each other pretty fucking happy.
Yeah, I mean, these are essentially the core reasons why we're with one another. And now it's a case of like, okay, this is
And
great.
obviously there's attraction in there as well, but I said that's already a mandatory thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then from here, it's just like, what else can you do? Like, how can we give each other more?
Yeah, how do we add more shit to this list? And that's, again, like a lifelong thing. Like, for the rest of my life, we had a discussion the other day. I said, like, I said to you, what amount of money do you want us both to earn? Did I say how much in the bank or how much each year?
You made it open-ended, and I gave it yearly.
Yeah, and so you said like a really high amount, $200,000 US a year. You said, I want us to earn $200,000. That's not even a high amount. I'm sure there's guys out there listening going like, bro, that's nothing. But like for us, like two fucking poor children who grew up like fucking poor as shit in an orphanage, which we didn't. I made that up. We are both poor. I was poor as fuck my whole life. And so like a goal like that seems insane to me. And so like, that's another thing that we'll work towards. When we get there, it's like, cool, now we have this to offer each other. We're both fucking rich. Think about how many doors that opens. And then from there, it's like, I want to get to a point where I'm like super fucking muscular and strong and I can just pick you up with one hand. That's something else I will have to offer. You want to get super lean with abs and like a really cute butt, like a really firm ass. That's something else you'll have to offer. So you can constantly be adding to this list. And if you're living your life correctly or living your life in the most healthy way, or just say it like that, you want to be constantly adding to this list. Like you are a work in progress. You always will be. Your inbox will never be completed. You'll die before you ever do everything you want to do. That's kind of the fun of life, really. Because imagine if you completed everything. What the fuck do you do with your time then?
I think that's like when you start going down that existential like, what's the point?
What's the point? And I tell you what you will do, guys. If you finish everything on your to-do list, guess what? You'll add one more thing to your fucking to-do list. Nobody finishes their to-do list. Nobody is a finished product. Even when they get to a point where they think they are, like people who win Olympic gold medals, Michael Jordan being the best basketballer of all time, like all these kind of people who reach like these insane peaks, guess what they do afterwards? They get a little depressed for a while. They figure out like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And then they just work on the next mission. Like you have to. You will always add another mission. You're never going to be, it'd be boring if you finished. Yeah. Would you like to shout anyone out or anything out?
Not really. No.
Shout outs to Dr. Pepper. So Dr. Pepper make a caffeine free, which is right up my alley, sugar free, so calorie free drink. It's very hard to track down here in Australia, but I love it very much. And I would like all of you to go out right now. It's not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. I don't care. Go out and buy a Dr. Pepper, drink it, leave a comment below and tell me how much it's changed your life. On a scale of 9 to 10, tell me how much it's changed your life.
9, well, that just means 9's bad. It's not like a 9 out of 10. It's just like from 1 to 2.
If you all drink 1 can of Dr. Pepper each, 100 of you do it, I will kill her for interrupting me.
No.